Broncos country, we are around 24 hours away from the Denver Broncos playing host to the Las Vegas Raiders for the home opener at Empower Field at Mile High. Now, a few things that I want to clear out of the way before we get this video started. One, I will be at the game because my dad, he's had season tickets before I was born, and I'm 22 years old, so I'll be going to the game. Also, or I guess, and part of that is so there's not going to be a recap like there has been in the past. I'm trying to rework the format, so we'll have to see how well that happens or how it's going to happen, but there will be a recap afterwards. Secondly, I wanted to get this video out to you yesterday, but I was waiting half the day for the final injury reports to come out, and then after that, I don't know, I just didn't like how I was recording it. I didn't like the audio. And so I was re-recording it because I like to have these high quality videos for you. I like to have the graphics, like to have a bunch of stuff. So that's why this video is about a day late. But nonetheless, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it. As always, I want to remind you that Jesus is King. I just pray that you give your life to him. He's got a plan and a purpose for you. And if you truly believe that Jesus died on the cross for your sins and rose from the dead 3 days later, then you'll go to heaven. It's not by our works in which we go to heaven. It's by the works of Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross for us. And now with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump in to the preview. So, starting with the team captains, I didn't make a video on it because I like higher quality videos, not short videos thrown together in 2 seconds, and I just didn't want to make a quick video showing you the team captain. So, I'm going to include it in this video. And this year's team captains are quarterback Russell Wilson, wide receiver Courtland Sutton, offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey, safety Justin Simmons, safety Kareem Jackson, and punter Riley Dixon. Now, 2 names that I expect to be captains most likely next season are going to be my favorite player, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, and cornerback Pat Surtain. Now, as for the injury list for the Broncos, Greg Dulcich was dealing with a personal matter. I believe it was a family matter, but I do expect him to play. Unspecified whether he will or not, but I do expect Jerry Jeudy. I do expect Greg Dulcich to play. Now, Jerry Jeudy is another question. Hamstring injury, he is questionable. Now, Jerry Jeudy is my favorite player on the team, so of course I'm hoping he can play. However, if it is more beneficial to have him sit week 1 and just miss the first week and play the rest of the season, I would prefer that to him playing week 1, re-aggravating or injuring it worse, and then being out for a longer amount of time. So it's tough. Obviously I'd love him to play the whole season, but I want him to play as long as he can this season. And if that's missing the first game, then so be it. I think it would be important for Jerry Jeudy to get more healthy if the doctors and the team thinks he's going to re-aggravate it more if he plays week 1. Chris Manhertz, the blocking tight end, has a chest injury. It is unspecified whether or not he is going to play Sunday. And Riley Moss has an abdomen injury, and he is questionable from that. He was originally out 4 weeks, and those 4 weeks are up. We didn't get to see him at all in the preseason. But if they need to hold Riley Moss out another week, I say do it because, even though he's our rookie cornerback, I don't believe he'll be starting with, obviously, Surtain, Damari Mathis, Isang Bassi in the slot. I don't know if he will be starting or how much playing time he'll get. I mean, I'm eagerly awaiting his debut, but, of course, we will have to see when that is, and hopefully he can recover from this abdomen injury soon. And then Pat Surtain has an ankle injury, and it is unspecified whether or not he is going to play on Sunday. I would highly suggest that he is going to play because we haven't heard a lot from that ankle injury, or at least I haven't. But if he doesn't play, this could cause the Broncos defense some huge problems. He's one of the best corners, in my opinion, the best corner in the league. So missing him, especially going off against one of the better wide receivers in the league, in Davante Adams, could be trouble for the Broncos. But I do expect him to play this week. As for the Raiders injuries, DeAndre Carter, one of their wide receivers, is questionable with a knee injury, but I don't know how much playing time he's going to get over the other 3 receivers that they have, those being Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Jacoby Myers. Then their defensive back, who can play corner or safety, Brandon Faison, has a shin injury and he is out for this game. And Chandler Jones, for the personal injuries that we've seen circling around on Twitter and whatnot, is out for this game. Now, I don't know how much of an impact this is going to make because the Raiders have Max Crosby as their number one edge rusher, and they also have seventh overall pick Tyree Wilson. So I think they're going to be fine at the pass rushing position, but we will have to see. So my keys for victory for the Denver Broncos are, number one, you have to slow down Josh Jacobs. He is one of the best running backs in the league, and you have to slow him down if you want a chance at winning because Josh Jacobs might be their offense this season. Also got to limit Davante Adams' productions. Two of the best players at their positions. You have to slow them down if you want a chance at winning this game because Davante Adams, one of the best receivers, Josh Jacobs, one of the best running backs, they are going to produce. You have to slow them down. And then my third key is to establish the run game early. This offense is going to run, no pun intended, but run through the run game. It's going to open up play action passes. It's going to open up the deep shots down the field. Plus, you want to get Javonte Williams in the groove, Samaje Perine in the groove, two solid running backs, and establishing the run game will open up the pass game. It's going to make the Raiders defense respect the run, and it's going to open up a bunch of things. I expect a lot of run, but I also expect a lot of passes in this offense this season. So those are my three keys to victory. Now, let's look at the quarterback comparison. So, Russell Wilson. These are his stats last season. 15 games, 292 completions, 483 attempts. He's thrown for 3,524 yards, 16 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, and has a quarterback rating of a 36.7. Last season for Jimmy Garoppolo, he played in 11 games with 207 completions on 308 attempts. He threw for 2,437 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions with a quarterback rating of a 54.3. Now, let's take a look at Javonte Williams going up against the Raiders front seven. These stats are from Javonte Williams' rookie season because, of course, he went down last season, week 4, against the Raiders, funny enough. But I didn't want to throw those stats because that's 4 games is not a large enough sample size, in my opinion, for last season. So I did his last full season, obviously his first season in the NFL, his rookie year. And in his rookie year, he played in all 17 games, had 203 rushing attempts for 903 yards, which is insanely impressive considering that season he split carries with Melvin Gordon and almost was a 1,000-yard rusher. If he was a primary back, he definitely would have been a 1,000-yard rusher. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns with a 49-yard run as his longest that season. Now, here is the Raiders front seven. Ignore the Chandler Jones photo in the top right because I forgot to change that. But this is their front seven that they will be rolling out with. Max Crosby, Jerry Tillery, Bilal Nichols, Tyree Wilson, Divine Diablo, Robert Spillane, and Luke Masterson. That is their front seven. And last season, this is their stats that they all put up. I didn't include Tyree Wilson because his stats would have been from his college season. So I included Chandler Jones in these stats. So just replace Tyree Wilson with Chandler Jones, and these are the stats. Obviously, we're not going up against Chandler Jones because he is out, but these are their stats from last season. Together, they put up 401 tackles, 38 tackles for loss, 20.5 sacks, and 69 quarterback hits. As for the Broncos front seven versus Josh Jacobs, well, Josh Jacobs played in 17 games and had 340 rushing attempts for 1,653 yards, averaging 4.9 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, and had a long run of 86 yards. Jacobs is one of the best in the business when it comes to running backs, and he deserves to be paid. Got paid for this season, and now the Broncos are going to have to face him and going to have to find a way to slow him down, and that will be this unit's responsibility. The Broncos front seven. These are the players that I have right here: Zach Allen, B.J. Jones, Matt Henningsen, Frank Clark, Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, and Randy Gregory. Of course, I'm confident about Zach Allen, B.J. Jones, Frank Clark, Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, Randy Gregory. I do believe some guys will be rotated in, like Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper. Don't know about the other defensive end spot. Is that going to be Henningsen? Is that going to be Jonathan Harris? Is that going to be Elijah Garcia? We'll have to see. But last season, all of these guys together, it's their individual stats combined, because obviously Frank Clark was with the Chiefs last season. But together, combined, all these guys had 444 tackles, 38 tackles for loss, 18 sacks, and 52 quarterback hits. And they are going to be responsible for not only rushing Jimmy Garoppolo and getting pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, but also in stopping Josh Jacobs in the run game. Now, let's look at the Broncos receivers versus the Raiders corners. These are the matchups: Jerry Jeudy versus Marcus Peters, Courtland Sutton versus rookie corner Jacorian Bennett, Marvin Mims versus Nate Hobbs. Now, of course, we don't know if Jerry Jeudy is going to play. If Jerry Jeudy isn't going to play, move Courtland Sutton up to Marcus Peters. I'd still probably have Marvin Mims in the slot going up against Nate Hobbs and move Brandon Johnson to the outside. But this is going off of the assumption that Jerry Jeudy is going to play. So, Jerry Jeudy versus Marcus Peters. Last season, Jerry Jeudy played in 15 games, had 67 receptions on 100 targets for 972, not passing, but receiving yards. But he had over 1,000 all-purpose yards and 6 touchdowns on the season. Sorry for hitting the mic there. Marcus Peters last season, kind of a down year for Marcus Peters standards, but played in 13 games, had 47 tackles, 1 interception, solid corner. Adds to that secondary, because the Raiders secondary before they signed Marcus Peters, in my opinion, was looking super, super weak outside of Nate Hobbs and Trevon Merrick. But they had a solid starter here in Marcus Peters. Maybe getting a little bit on the older side, kind of on the downward trajectory, but still, Marcus Peters is a really good corner, so I am not going to sleep on him by any means. Next up, Courtland Sutton versus Jacorian Bennett. Last season, Courtland Sutton, another down year. It's been a couple down years in a row since that 2019 season. Sutton played in 15 games, had 64 receptions on 109 targets, 829 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the season for Courtland Sutton. As for Jacorian Bennett, you see the asterisk there because he was a rookie last season. He's a rookie this season, but he was at the University of Maryland last season, so these are his college stats. And in last season in college, he played in 12 games, had 69 tackles, and 5 interceptions for the Maryland Terrapins. So, yeah, he's a rookie corner. We gotta be making him look like a rookie, so Courtland Sutton has to take advantage of that. And finally, in the slot, we have Marvin Mims versus Nate Hobbs. And just like Jacorian Bennett, there's the asterisk because he was in Oklahoma for his senior season. He's a rookie this year, so that's why the asterisks are there. But in 13 games last season for the Sooners, he had 54 receptions for 1,083 yards, averaging 19.4 yards per play, and had 6 touchdowns on the season. It'll be interesting to see. Marvin Mims is electric with that speed, but he'll be going up against Nate Hobbs, who in my opinion is a slot corner. The Raiders could put him on the outside, but I think he's better as a slot corner. And last season, he played in 11 games, had 72 tackles, and 4 passes defended. Don't believe he had an interception last season, though I could be wrong. But yeah, that is the matchup there, right there for Marvin Mims versus Nate Hobbs. And why not? Let's throw in the tight ends. I put Greg Dulcich here. Listen, I know Adam Troutman is technically our tight end 1. He can play in the receiving game. Think he's more of a blocker. So I wanted to do our pure receiving threat tight end and Greg Dulcich here. And in 10 games last season, his rookie year, he had 33 receptions on 55 targets for 411 yards and 2 touchdowns. Whereas last season, Trevon Merrick, their safety, one of the more underrated safeties in my opinion, liked him coming out in 2021 out of TCU. He played in 15 games, had a total of 55 tackles, 37 solo tackles, 15 or sorry, 18 assist tackles, 5 passes defended. Don't believe he had any interceptions again, but I could be wrong. I might have forgot to change uh Trevon Merrick's stats. You know what? Let's look it up right now. Trevon Merrick stats. I just want to be correct. Not that it matters too much because it's last season, but yeah, he did not have an interception last season, but he is still a solid safety in my opinion. Now, let's do it reverse now. The Broncos corners versus the Raiders receivers. It will be Pat Surtain going up against Davante Adams. Damari Mathis, the second-year corner out of Pitt, going up against newly signed receiver for the Raiders, Jacoby Myers. And it will be Isang Bassi versus Hunter Renfrow. Now, originally, this was K'Wan Williams. Obviously, he is on the IR. So now we have Isang Bassi going up against Hunter Renfrow. Okay. This one is going to be a little bit different between Surtain and Davante Adams. Last season versus the Raiders, Pat Surtain had 10 tackles, 8 a solo, 2 assists, and 2 passes defended. And in the first game, he allowed a completion percentage of a 57.1% while allowing a passer rating of a 70.5. Where in the second game, he allowed a completion percentage of 80% and a passer rating of 158.2. So in the first game, it went to Surtain. The second game, it went to Adams in terms of who won that matchup. Now, it's round 3. Here we go. Davante Adams last season versus the Broncos. 16 receptions on 26 targets, had 242 yards and 2 touchdowns against us. Most of that coming in the second game. The second game, the second matchup between us and the Raiders last season. Now, Damari Mathis versus Jacoby Myers. Damari Mathis entering his second season. Here's what he did in his rookie season. 16 games played, 65 tackles, 7 passes defended. Has not yet got his first career interception. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later, but I'm expecting a big jump from Damari Mathis this season. And of course, the receiver he's going to be matched up against is going to be Jacoby Myers, who they signed from the Patriots, or I guess he was on the Patriots last season. Now he is on the Raiders. And in 14 games last season, he had 67 receptions on 96 targets for 804 yards and 6 touchdowns. And funny enough, he had that one play where he threw the ball behind him and Chandler Jones returned it for a touchdown when he was with the Patriots. Funny story, but now he is with the Raiders, of course. And finally, we have Isang Bassi versus Hunter Renfrow. Last season, Bassi played in 14 games, kind of in a relief role, wasn't really a starter. It will be starting this game, I believe. And he had 15 tackles and 2 passes defended. Yeah, I mean, Isang Bassi had a heck of a preseason, getting a pick in each of the 3 preseason games. So, yeah, let's see what Isang Bassi can do now in the regular season matchup in the slot versus Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow last season, kind of a down year. 10 games played, 36 receptions, 50 targets on 330 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Renfrow. But, of course, we all know Hunter Renfrow got a lot of speed, very fast. Most likely will be lined up in the slot with Jacoby Myers. Maybe he plays on the outside, but I see him more playing in the slot for this game. Next up, let's do the tight end versus the safety again. It's going to be Justin Simmons versus Michael Mayer. I'll explain why I chose Michael Mayer over Austin Hooper here in a second. Well, I'll explain it right now. I just think that Michael Mayer obviously was their second-round pick, and a high second-round pick at that. Someone who I thought could be the best tight end in the class. He was up there in that conversation. So I think they're going to want to use him. Austin Hooper is technically the starter, but I think they'll use a lot of Michael Mayer. But we'll have to see. Last season, Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties in the league, played in 12 games, had 69 tackles and 6 interceptions, which was tied for the league lead with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Tariq Woolen. But now, I think it was also with a third player. Hopefully Simmons can stay healthy and play more than 12 games. We'll have to see. But yeah, Justin Simmons is one of the best ball hawk safeties in the league. Michael Mayer, a rookie. Last season for Notre Dame, he played in 12 games, had 67 receptions, 809 yards, averaging 12.1 yards per play, and 9 touchdowns. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's look at the Broncos pass rush versus the Raiders offensive line. Yeah, the Broncos pass rush is going to include guys like Randy Gregory, Frank Clark, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper. Those are going to be the primary pass rushers, the edge rushers, if you will. And last season, all of these guys had 36 sacks total. And the Raiders, they gave up 27 sacks last season. Of course, that offensive line is led by tackle Colton Miller. Other guys, I guess the other notable guy would be Jermaine Illuminor for the Raiders, their other tackle. I don't think it's the strongest offensive line in the league. I think their tackles are solid, but the interior of their offensive line might be a little bit weaker. So guys like DJ Jones, Zach Allen, Matt Henningsen should be able to put some pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, opposite, we got the Broncos offensive line versus the Raiders pass rush. You see the two starting tackles in Mike McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles. See guards Quinn Miners and Ben Powers. Only one missing is going to be center Lloyd Cushenberry in the picture. And then, of course, you have the pass rush, which is going to be Max Crosby, Divine Diablo. Now, you see Chandler Jones, but that is going to be Tyree Wilson, their rookie. And last season, the Broncos gave up 55 sacks, which is huge. But also, Russell Wilson likes to extend the play, and he sometimes takes some other unnecessary sacks. But still, got to get that number lower than 55. And the Raiders only got 27 sacks last season, so it should be interesting with the new and improved Broncos offensive line versus Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson, in my opinion. It's going to be a fun matchup, especially for those two tackles right there, and McGlinchey and Bowles. So, what are my final thoughts on this game? Well, I think it's going to be interesting. Of course, the Raiders are starting to pile up a win streak against us like the Chiefs. We cannot let that happen, especially under the Sean Payton era. We also need to get off to a fast start if we want to make the playoffs, especially in a loaded AFC conference and the AFC West being loaded in general. So, what is my final prediction for this game? I am going to go with the Broncos win over the Raiders 31-20. That is my final score prediction. Let me know what your final score predictions are in the comment section below. Make sure if you did enjoy to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you are brand new, as the support is greatly appreciated. But my name is Parker, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.